In this video, we're going to talk about some of the basics of music math, that is, translating some of the rhythms that we see into fractions to help understand what's really going on. This might also help you understand fractions differently if you've had trouble with that. So, let's take a whole note, which we all know looks like this. What if we wanted to express the concept of a whole note as a fraction? Well, a whole thing is one thing, right? So 1 over 1 is 1. 1 Mr. Spear is 1 over 1. There's only one of me. There's only one whole note. It takes up the whole thing. So whole note, 1 over 1. Associate the denominator with the whole note, 1 whole note. When you see 1 in the denominator, you need to think whole note. Think of an analogy to a pizza. A whole note is like a whole pizza, and we're going to come back to that pizza analogy with other notes. Next, we have the half note, which looks like this. Open note head with a stem. The half note expressed as a fraction, as you can guess, is 1 over 2, or 1 half. And again, denominator 2 associate with half note. Think half note when you see 2 in the denominator. As a pizza goes, a half a pizza looks like that. You get rid of half and you have half. So it's really easy if you think about pizza to do the math. If I said, what's 1 half plus 1 half? Well, it's 1. Because 2 halves of a pizza make 1 whole pizza. Just like 2 half notes make 1 whole note. What about quarter notes? A quarter note expressed as a fraction, as you probably know, is 1 over 4. We sometimes call that fraction 1 quarter. Football games have quarters. Lots of money. Think of money, quarters. There's 4 quarters in a dollar. So you use this concept of quarter all over the place. But when you see that 4 in the bottom, be thinking quarter note. And that's really important because the one place you will always see a fraction in music is in your time signature. And that bottom number, that denominator in the time signature, tells you what kind of note we're using as a unit of measurement. As a pizza, what would a quarter of a pizza look like? Well, cut it a couple times and there you go. And again, think about a pizza. It would take 4 slices that size to equal a whole pizza. What about eighth notes? Filled in note head with a flag. Single flag, one flag, as a fraction, 1 over 8. And again, associate 8 with eighth note. And as a pizza goes, an eighth of a pizza is a pretty common slice of pizza. I'm getting hungry thinking about it. 16th notes, 2 flags, 2 beams. As a fraction, 1/16th note would be 1 over 16, 1/16th. And again, the number 16 associate with 16th note. As a pizza slice would go, a 16th of a pizza is pretty small. And it would take 16 of them to make a whole pizza. How many would it take to make half a pizza? If you could tell your friends, man, I ate how many slices and it was half a pizza. Well, if you ate 8 slices of that size, you would have eaten half of a pizza. So this is usable information when you're bragging to your friends, right? Let's talk about some equations. This is actually algebra, if you think about it. An equation is where you have something on one side of an equal sign and something on the other, and the goal is to make sure they are equal. So if I said, how many half notes would equal 1 whole note, I'm asking mathematically, 1 over 1 equals to what over 2? Because remember, 2 is half note. So what would it take, if I replaced x with a number, what would it take to make this equation true? Well, first, it helps to take 1 over 1 and translate that to a number that ends with 2 in the denominator. And the fraction that works for that is 2. Now, right there, you have your answer for x, 2 over 2. But think of it this way as well. 2 over 2 is the same as saying 1 half plus 1 half. 1 half plus 1 half. And if we took that, 1 half and 1 half, and we think of that as half notes, that's another good way to visualize the concept of 1 half. Think of a half note. 2 half notes usually fill up a typical measure. Now, here's another way of thinking about the same question. What if I had a scale? And on one side of the scale, I put a whole note. So right now, that side of the scale is going to be tipped in the whole note's favor. So I want to create balance with half notes. How many would I have to put on the other side of the scale to create balance? 1 wouldn't do it, because 1 over 1 is not equal to 1 over 2. But 2 half notes, that would create balance between the two. So when we ask how many half notes fit into a whole note, this is another way to visualize it. What about expressing a whole note in terms of quarter notes? How many quarter notes would fit in a whole note? And again, this is what the algebra equation would look like. Solve for x. What is x? Some of you probably did the math in your head. But think of it this way again. If I want to translate 1 over 1 into a number that ends in 4 in the denominator, then I put a 4 in the top. And we can write that out again as 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. Visualize quarter notes, 4 quarter notes. And most of the time in our typical 4/4 measures, we're going to see each measure is the length of 4 quarter notes. You can't see 5 in there. You won't see only 3 unless there's a rest. But every measure is the length of 4 of those. So a whole note is the same length as 4 quarter notes. Let's put it on the scale. Whole note on one side. How many quarter notes do I need on the other to balance it? You guessed it. 4 quarter notes. In the next video, we'll be talking about some more specific equations that are not so much algebra, but just basic addition.